So how I'll start is I'll kind of imagine zooming in quite a bit, and I'll show you an example of like moving, you know, this up to the still life, so we don't see all that stuff around. The only thing that's really important is about 3 inches all the way around the block that I have up there. And I'm going to draw in a smaller composition. I'm going to be drawing in this space right in here. And one of the things you can do is if you want to play around with some colors out in the outside margins, you can. We're painting to learn, we're not painting to exhibit. So don't feel like this has to be a real finished image. I'm going to draw the stage of the still life. And I'm going to draw it as if I don't even see the block first. And you want to be careful that you draw the correct perspective. How much of this angle, you know, is there really? And a lot of you will tend to want to, you know, flatten it so that we're looking at a really intense angle, going straight up at a 90-degree angle. We know it's a 90, but the way it looks, it's much more relaxed and it's coming down. If we bring our eye all the way down to the level of the tabletop, it becomes a straight line across. So we know it goes up a little bit, but we would have to be on top of the still life looking right down at it to see it as a real 90-degree angle. Okay. Now, a lot of the stuff I'll tell you, you may understand only a little bit, but as we go through 3 different demos, it'll start to sink in. You'll say, oh, that's what he means by that. Now I finally see that. So don't worry about if I explain something, you don't immediately be able to apply it. So now I'm going to do my block. And if, you know, the block ends up looking like it's more of a cornflakes box or more of a baking soda box, you know, it doesn't have to be a perfect height, but you want to be able to see 3 planes, and that's just sort of a general rule. If you want to create form, if you only see the flat side of something, like say this box right here, if I only saw this side of it and it was up at an angle like this, that would be harder to paint realistically that's dimensional. If I saw the front and the top, that's a little bit better, but what I want to do is I want to see the front, top, and then the edge as well. 1, 2, 3. So if you guys can get that in yours, I'll try to make it so whoever's sitting way over there with the Marlins hat, you're going to be challenged to lift your head up just a little bit to see the top and move your head around just a little bit to see this side. So I'll try to make it, set it up so everyone's got a good shot. Now the dance, remember the shadow, we want to be able to draw that in there as well. So as I feel more confident that I've got these angles in here right, do you see how this angle and this angle are almost parallel? I've lined the block up there just so that we can show that, you know. So these 2 angles would be parallel. This angle or this line here and this line here would be parallel. And I'm looking for how much space there is between. I probably could bring this down just a little bit more because I think there's just a little bit more space in between here. So I'm going to bring that down just a little bit more. And I don't have to worry about erasing this. I'm just going to paint over that, so you don't have to worry about cleaning all that up. But here's my shadow. My shadow kind of comes down like this, goes back like that, and it doesn't touch this back wall, so it stops short of it. Something about like that. Okay? So here's the bottom shadow. And then I also want to sort of just give myself some idea of where value changes are. It's a little bit darker, that wall right here. And it's a little bit lighter in this little area right there. So darker, lighter, darker. Over here, it's just a little bit lighter in here. If you don't see that right away, it's just a little bit lighter. And then it's a little bit, it's called the penumbra. It's the edge of the shadow. There's just a little bit like a spotlight. And there's a change of value that's right in here. Okay? So I'm ready to go ahead and start mixing up my color. The drawing shouldn't take you too long. We've got a burnt sienna. We've got a ultramarine blue, cadmium red, cadmium yellow, and then we have a raw umber and a white. Now the white's really the only non-color that's up there. The browns are earth tones. This is earth pigment that has been mined out of the ground and mixed in with an acrylic medium. And then this is probably a fake ultramarine. Ultramarine was originally lapis lazuli, is a semi-precious stone that would get ground into color. Cadmium is a pigment, and it's like a dangerous material. You don't want to ingest cadmium. This is probably not a synthetic. This is probably a synthetic cadmium, and this is probably also a synthetic cadmium. But if these were oil paints And if these were toxic materials, you wouldn't want to get them into your hands. If there's any chance at all that you're pregnant, you don't want to have any of these sort of dangerous things getting into your body. So you'd want to wear rubber gloves. But these are all non-toxic, and you can kind of see that over here on the side. This is it's a semi-opaque vehicle, and this is called Grumbacher red. It's meant to look like a cadmium, but it's not real cadmium. So you don't have to worry about any of these being toxic. If you buy something on your own, you're painting at home, and it says cadmium, just try to keep it off of your hands. So we don't need the yellow, the red, or the sienna for this composition. We're just doing achromatic, non-color, but we're actually going to get our blue by mixing the ultramarine blue and the umber. And umber, as a brown, if you can imagine this as being the darkest shade of orange, orange and blue are complements, so they are opposite each other in the color wheel. And when you mix them together, you get a neutral. That's just part of color theory, and some of your 2D design, you may have studied that a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix the brown and we're going to mix the blue together to get our black. And that's going to create a richer black than if you were to buy a processed black at the store. If you've got a nice black cashmere sport coat, or if you've ever seen, you know, really rich, beautiful black hair in the sun, and you've noticed there's little specks of blue and violet and all, there's color in black. So that's what we're trying to do here with this. And what you'll find is that you'll need to clean off your palette knife in between. And it's a hassle, but this is actually the strength of painting. Mixing the right color is really where you're going to be good at this, or you're not going to be good at this. So I'm just mixing a little bit together to see, because sometimes one pigment is stronger than the other. If you can imagine ammonia and tea, we have a glass of water and we drop a drop of ammonia in one and a drop of tea in the other one. Okay? You smell the two of them. You really can't smell the tea very well, but you can smell the ammonia. Some of these pigments are like the bullies. They're the stronger ones. They work the other color. So you blend them together and you try to see if it's really neutral or not. Now, as dark as it is, I can't really tell. I do have the feeling, though, this is a little bit more on the brown side. So I'm going to add a little more blue to it, and I clean off my palette knife in between. Add a little bit more blue. Now, I want to see if this is a bluish black or a brownish black. And the way to do that is to make it just a little bit lighter. Make a slight tint of this. I'm going to do that by adding some white to it. So, some white over here on the side. Add just a little bit of white in here. And what I want to do is I want to see if that's a gray or if it's a blue-gray. Alright. So, I don't know if you can really see that well, but what do you think? Is that a blue-gray, a brown-gray, or is that a neutral gray? Can you tell? Okay, so what do I need to add to it?
Some more blue.
If it's a blue-gray,
More black.
yeah, more brown, right. So I'm cleaning off my palette knife, adding a little bit more brown to it in here.